Marvel might be on the upswing as Deadpool looks like it might be reaching $1 billion, while Doctor Doom appears to be being played by Robert Downey Jr. However, a new rumor out of WDW Pro suggests that Marvel is in talks to bring in someone very famous who will actually be playing Doctor Doom when the movie hits theaters in 2 years. Let's talk about the actor who will actually be playing Doctor Doom if contracts go through here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. And here with me, as always, is Mr. Vash Guy. Vash, are you ready to talk about the biggest name in Marvel movies, maybe in about 2 years? We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it now, but he's going to be big in about 2 years.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to say this. He's big now, but he's also going to be big in Marvel in 2 years. I'm being confusing on purpose. But before we get to it, I hope you're ready. Here, let's talk about who is probably not going to be in this film. It's not Jonathan Majors right here. Jonathan Majors says that he is heartbroken over Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom replacing Kang in the next Avengers films. He'd still return to the MCU if that's what Marvel wants. You know, what's interesting about this situation, you have the guy on the right who struggled with a lot of substance abuse issues and things like that. And they almost didn't let him play Iron Man in 2008 because he was that big of a liability. There are no stories that came out about the things that Jonathan Majors has now been convicted of doing, which is a completely separate issue, which Hollywood does not view as favorably as this one. I think there's a lot of people in Hollywood who struggled with what Robert Downey Jr. struggled with. So maybe there's a rising from the ashes story there. Also, Kang, not really known as the kind of person that Jonathan Majors is convicted of being here. There's so much here that this film was going to be Kang Dynasty. They were obviously building up to Kang. Loki season 2 was all about Kang. Well, actually, Loki season 1 was about Kang as well. The Ant-Man series, instead of being comedies, basically starring Ant-Man, turned into epic movies that were supposed to introduce Kang. I forget where else Kang showed up in the MCU, but they were really pointing towards, you know, Jonathan Majors is on the red carpet. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're in the presence of Jonathan Majors. It was a farce of Sam Worthington proportions. Nothing against Sam Worthington, but I think they oversold it a little bit here.
I think you're absolutely right about that. There was a lot of hype around the Kang Dynasty. There was a lot of hype around Jonathan Majors specifically. You also recall that around the time that he was being involved into the MCU, remember he had an appearance, I believe, in Creed 3, if that's not mistaken, which turned a lot of heads. So, you know, at the time, yeah, there was a lot of hype surrounding that character. But I would say it is disappointing that things didn't happen differently, but you know, I must say these were actions, unfortunately, of his own making. Yep,
I would agree with that. And now he is not the person who's actually playing Doctor Doom. That would be a fascinating misdirect here. So for this story, we want to go over here to That Park Place, and this one by John F. Trent. Rumor, the Lord of the Rings veteran to play Doctor Doom Prime in Marvel Cinematic Universe. Doctor Doom Prime, that's a great way of saying the person who is actually Doctor Doom here. I love these. I love the way that they talk in comic books. The Beyonder is dead. Now the supreme being in the universe is Doom. Love it. A new rumor claims that a Lord of the Rings veteran will play Prime Doctor Doom in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Look at that. It's Iron Man on one side and Doctor Doom on the other. I also don't think that's exactly what they're doing here, but that's a great image. During the WDW Pros, the Pro Show live stream this afternoon, this is from Thursday, Scooper WDW Pro revealed that Viggo Mortensen will play Doctor Doom alongside Robert Downey Jr. in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, the word will is being used here, but as we understand it, it is in talks. This represents someone who is, nothing is on paper yet. So all of this can change. Take this rumor with a grain of salt as we continue on here. This rumor comes in the wake of Marvel Studios announcing that Robert Downey Jr. would return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Doctor Doom at the company's Hall H presentation at San Diego Comic-Con. Joe Russo announced Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, saying, "We give you the one person who can play Victor Von Doom." I'm going to say that's a little bit of what's the word? Is it puffery? Is that a little bit of showmanship there? And then Robert Downey Jr. walks out, and he is Doom. He does that classic Iron Man pose that he does, standing in front of those mountains before the Jericho missile blows up the entire landscape there. That's a great way to introduce Tony Stark. It's one of those shots that looks like it doesn't have a lot of CGI in it. I'm sure there's a CGI assist, because if you ever say that there's not CGI in a clip, someone on the internet goes, no, the entire shot was in fact constructed using CGI. In fact, the actor itself, he never existed. But anyways, what I want to say is Robert Downey Jr., it sounds like he is playing a Victor Von Doom. I don't think he's playing actual Victor Von Doom. Vash, we were having some discussion before we started recording this video here. What do you think about Viggo Mortensen possibly playing Doctor Doom?
That's a really cool cast right there. I think, because Victor Von Doom, as part of the Marvel universe in comics, is such a pivotal character for a number of reasons. We all associate him, I think, to a great extent with the Fantastic Four, and solely the Fantastic Four, but Doctor Doom plays a huge role in the Marvel universe and just in general. So to have casting like that, I think is pretty awesome. And well, obviously, going back to his role as Aragon, it's kind of a nice shift for him when it comes to big franchises and maybe playing roles that perhaps he was typecast for. So that's kind of a cool position there.
I'm not sure how you're using typecast in this particular context here, but he has stayed away from the sword and sorcery things. Although I did hear from Jonathan Watson from the Exploring Tolkien podcast was on that episode of the Pro Show. And you should go check out this article. We'll try to link it in the description below, but it's over on That Park Place. Jonathan Watson pointed out that they allowed, I almost called him Aragorn, they allowed Viggo Mortensen to use that sword in a dream sequence in a film that he just released. It's a Western, but he has a dream sequence, and they allowed him to use. I'm not sure which sword it is, if it's the shards of Narsil that are reformed or what, but I do want to go to this comment. There's a very interesting comment from Viggo Mortensen from just the last few weeks here. Interestingly, Mortensen recently talked about franchise films in an interview with Vanity Fair and was asked if he intentionally avoids them. He told the outlet, "I don't really look for or avoid any kind of genre or any size budget. I just look for interesting stories. It doesn't matter to me what the genre is or what the budget is or who's making them. I would never do a movie just because so-and-so is directing it. It has to be about the story. And I think if I'm right for the character, it always comes first." Here's where it gets really good, though. That goes for franchises. If somebody came to me with X movie, the third part or the ninth part, and I thought it was a great character and I wanted to play that character and I thought I had something to contribute, I'd do it. I'm not against it, but they're not usually that good. I mean, to me, they're not usually that well written. They're kind of predictable. I mean, of course, there's always the issue of if I run out of money, he added. I don't know what his back end deals were like on Lord of the Rings, but in my heart, that movie continues to make $1 billion every year. I don't know that that's true. I haven't looked at the Warner Brothers financials specifically on the Lord of the Rings, but some things to point out here. Viggo Mortensen is a person who speaks multiple languages, several fictional languages as well. In fact, his ability to speak several languages played into the Lord of the Rings and asked for more scenes that were in Elvish. I think Quenya, is that the name of the Elvish language? I should intentionally mispronounce it, so someone corrects me in the comment section down below. Yeah, he speaks Klingon in the Lord of the Rings films there. Also, he's a guy who really gets into his role. So Doctor Doom is from the fictional Eastern European nation of Latveria, and it's kind of a Slavic Russianish mix. It's again fictional, sounds a lot like Latvia, so maybe they'll base it on Latvia, Estonia, something like that. He can add a foreign flair to it without also making it into, I don't know, a hammy performance or something like that. Other names had been put forward as people who could play Doom, including Ben Mendelsohn. Let's see, Mads Mikkelsen's name comes up over and over again because he's a villain in everyone's mind, I suppose. Lars Mikkelsen, who's now Thrawn, also brought up as a person who could play Doom. I don't want to say that those guys are not great actors. I just think that the casting outside of Hollywood, it's like trying to cast Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor right around the time that they're doing a Superman film. It's like, who's menacing and who's bald? You know, it gets a little one note, maybe not that imaginative, although I'm sure those actors would do an excellent job in the role. Vash, do you have anything you want to add here before we wrap up this discussion?
Well, I think the talk of budgets is pretty profound here. We have heard that the Russos are getting at least $80 million for this for these two works at least. That puts these films at $40 million a piece just off the bat. And then we know that Robert Downey Jr. is getting paid exorbitantly more than that. So if we were to maybe take $120 million for both those films and divide it up, I mean, we're talking about $100 million for each of these pieces, and well, that's just 3 people on the casting sheet. So it's going to be a very expensive production. It's going to be a relatively large risk for Disney in order to relaunch this thing, and hopefully successfully with Robert Downey Jr. attached. I would think that they would be pulling out all the stops in order to make this work. I think to have famous Aragon attached to this, I think would give it even more cachet, more star power, and honestly, maybe put people's minds at ease for the people who are maybe hesitant about Robert Downey Jr. stepping into that role.
Right. I think that Aragorn being in this film is going to be very important. But if it happens, by the way, again, emphasis, this is a rumor. This is something that is a rumor about someone being in talks. So again, don't hold us to this one. This is just something that we are currently hearing about from a reliable source, but also a rumor about something that is in talks. Now, what I also want to point out here is the last 2 Avengers films, Endgame and what was the other one? Infinity War. Amazing Infinity War. I think $1.2 billion is what they ended up spending in order to make those films. Debatable about whether or not they made their money back as far as or as much money as they would have liked to have made. There's a statement right there for the Disney company. So I think there's still plenty of room in the budget for a Hugh Jackman, a Tobey Maguire, everyone who has ever thought about being in a Marvel movie. You know, they might also be in this film here.
But
so
we're talking about maybe as many as 60 people. I know you've heard those rumors as well. And we've seen maybe some rumors and talks about who might be included in this film. Boy, oh boy, they're really going to have to spend the money this time. And perhaps it's all worth it when you add in merchandise sales and everything like that. But man, Jonas, if this goes awry, this could be cataclysmic for the Walt Disney Company
you're very right.
Kill Marvel entirely.
Yeah. I think that they are probably throwing enough against the wall here that they will at least get people in the theaters for the first one with a good twist. Now, that being said, we want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about this rumor in particular? Who do you want to see in the film? If they don't get Viggo Mortensen, who do you think would be a good Doctor Doom? Ben Mendelsohn, I think he's actually quite talented. It would be interesting to see an Australian Doctor Doom myself, but I don't know. Like this video if you like this video, and of course consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.